Okay guys, we're back with the Illustrator tutorial. We have done the type, pretty much getting there now with most of this. Got to refine a couple of icons, etc., but I'll do those separately. Main thing now is just to clean this up and start making sure things are properly snapped and they're correctly sized. So what I'm going to do is I've got rid of the type palette, the character palette. I'm going to select all, hit edit, hit copy. I'm going to move on to a new artboard. I like to keep sort of separate artboards in case I need to backtrack somewhere. I haven't lost anything. So next to the layers is the artboard palette, and we're going to move to the block out copy. Just double click on that. Now, originally, if you remember, I have another layer here. So this is what we're creating effectively like a schematic view. I'm going to do that again here by hitting Control 1 to zoom into 100%, and then hitting Control or Command, depending on your Mac or PC, F to paste in the center here. Okay, so I'm going to select the outer edge here, and what we're basically doing in this section inside this artboard is kind of, just assessing what we've got. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to do the same thing. So it's looking pretty good. Obviously I'm missing this one icon, but for the sake of purposes of speed and what have you, I'm not going to make this one. We've already kind of going to go through the process of assembling this one, and then you should be able to use the same principles to work out how to create the little sort of diary, notebook, address book, whatever it is that this one is. Okay, so I'm going to actually move on to the next page, which is the block out area, and again I'm going to paste. You can see it's trying to put it in there, so I'm going to just undo, hit Control 1 and hit paste. Okay, and what that will do, instead of pasting in front, it will paste it, should in theory paste it in the perfect position. It hasn't in this case because obviously one of my lines sticks out more on one side than the other, so I'm just going to nudge it roughly. I'm going to zoom in to 100%. In fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. So I just want to make sure this top left corner is in the right place. I've got them all selected at the moment. I'm also, while I'm at it, I'm going to group them. Okay, I find grouping, I do it obsessively, and it's a great way of organizing. I'll show you why. Because within a layer like this, we can also open the layers and we can see groups within them. So I can name those layers. So I call this screen elements. Okay, and then within that group, I can then see other aspects as well. Okay, so what you'll see is these bits are bits that might be on other artboards over there. We've got lots on this layer. Sometimes you'll have multiple artboards, and it becomes a bit of a pain. Also, what I find is that if I'm wanting to make edits like move the whole screen left, I want to do it at a group level rather than move each individual element one by one. Okay, so I'm going to go into this group. I do that by double clicking, and what that does, it takes you into sort of editing mode, isolation mode, it's usually referred to as officially. Okay, and you can see this is the layer, and then on here I'm in a group called Screen Elements, and you can see everything else and other pages and stuff is grayed out. Probably can't see it right now, but you can see they're grayed out and I can't select them. I'm only dealing with the elements within my group. So it's a great way of allowing yourself to get into editing one thing without worrying about other bits in the background. You can see it in position, etc., particularly when you're working on things like web pages. So in the background here, I might want an image. I'm not going to worry about it too much at this stage because what I want to do is go through these elements and tweak them. I'm going to bring up the transform palette. You could do it at the top here, okay, but I prefer to actually have it as a palette, so I'm going to hit it over here. I brought this out earlier. If you can't see it, go to Windows, down, and select transform, and you can see at the moment that I'm working in pixels. Okay, again, I've said before, but if you don't have pixels, bring up the ruler and right click and choose pixels. And you can see that I've got 319.96 pixels now. I've yet to meet the screen that can do fractions of a pixel, so I want to clean this up. Obviously, this should clearly be 320 by 380. Okay, now I can attach this, which will link the two, and I can change my width to 320, and it's actually snapped directly to 480. Okay, if it didn't, you just deselect the link and adjust each manually. So when I want to scale things and make sure they stay in proportion, I want this link on. This constrains width and height. And when I don't want to, I can take it off. Okay. So I now know that that is the proper area for the screen. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is switch to the Align palette. I'm going to make sure that I can show options. This might go slightly off your screen, but the top option here, in fact, tell you what I'll do, I will open this out and I will just pull these 3 palettes off over here so we can see them a little better. I'll move the screen over to the left. So I want to go to show options, and I want to this time change to Align to Artboard. I know that the screen is the right size. In this case, for this artboard, if you click the Artboard tool, I've actually made my screen area 320 by 480, so I know that my artboard's the right size. So all that remains now is for me to make sure that this is properly centered and vertically and horizontally. But I want to do that to the artboard. So I choose Align to Artboard. If you can't see this, you need to have show options. And I'm going to hit center and center. Now I know it's perfect. It's not going to suddenly be in a different position or anything like that. Okay. I've got these elements in place as well. And I can start again working out using the transform palette whether these things are right. So I'm going to use top left. Usually what we do, it should happen anyway with this artboard. You can see there's a 0 on my ruler here, which corresponds to the edge of my screen, and a 0 at the top. If it doesn't, you can click and drag those crosshairs and drop them on the corner of your artboard if for some reason it's not zeroed, or anywhere else for that matter. If I had a menu bar on the top and actually you know, like a fake browser bar or something, I could drag here out and let go. Okay, just need to check that this is still going to be 0, 0. So all I did was drag, and it will snap automatically to the top corner. So what I can start to work out is whether these are consistently formatted in, and what the width is, what it probably should be. So I can select these, and I can see that their x coordinates are 18. Okay, which is probably about right. Okay, they're 18 pixels in from the left. Okay, height will be different as a group. If you choose different points, you get different sizes. So I'm going to say 18 is probably right. I'm going to bring in a guide and just let go. Okay, now you can't see that because I have for some reason got my guides hidden. So I'm going to go to View, Guides, and Show Guides. And you can see that I've put in a guide here. You should be able to select the guide. Usually if you can't, you go down to your View, Guides, and you can unlock guides. Okay, normally you can select a guide and actually see where it's positioned. Next thing I want to do is see what size these are. Now you can see they're not square. For some reason I've ended up with 17 by 16. Now I'm going to guess that these should be 18 by 18. So I'm going to type in 18 and 18. You'll notice I didn't have the link connected. Okay, and I'm doing it from the top left. Okay, I'm going to do the same with this one. Make it 18 by 18. And the same finally with this one. I want to make sure that they're square. I'm assuming they're supposed to be square. So I'm just tidying up and refining. Again, I can drag on a guide and snap. Okay. Next thing I might want to do is see how they align to this object on the right. So I might nudge them up 1 pixel. So it just seems to align better with the main heading, which means I probably want to do the same with the other 2. I can also look at their location. So this one coming from the top down is 18 pixels over by 271 now. Maybe that's a bit odd for me. So again, this is where I'd come in and I'd probably tweak things like that. And this one I'm going to make 320. And so this one should also end on a 0. Okay, I can check that they're all aligned out correctly by going to my Align palette. Now I don't want to align to the page now. I want to align to the selection. I've held down Shift, selected all 3 boxes, and this will just make sure that they're properly spaced. You see nothing moved, so I know that they're each the right distance apart. Okay, so what I do usually at this phase is I go through and do the same thing throughout. Now I know these are 18, so I'm going to bring them over. I'm going to use my transform going to use the right edge. You can see it's 320 pixels, so I know it's definitely in the right edge here. Can drag out a margin, go to the corner, and it should snap. So what I'm doing there is I've just deleted that. Is effectively, in fact, I'll undo the delete. I've effectively created the same margin that I've got here. So I've got 18 pixel margin on this side of the page, 18 on this. I can then drag this in, again realign it, make sure it's 18, so it's 302. Do the same thing. Snap. Now Illustrator's doing the hard work for me. I'm not having to do the maths. I could do it that way if I wanted, but you'll see that this sticks out. So these are little things that I will often tweak as a designer. I'll start to think maybe the designer didn't quite get this right, or he's done it by eye. At the end of the day, it needs to look right, but if you're programming it, you might want to use quite a nice sort of grid. So you can see here, these all seem to kind of coalesce with 18 pixel grids. So I've got an 18, another 18, another 18. That looks almost perfectly aligned. Might want to nudge it 1 pixel. And then what I'm going to do at this end is say, you know what, I'm going to move that in. I'll just drag that end margin in like so. Okay. In this case, it's automatically sorted out my tabs for me and everything. If they wrap on, you might need to bring up the tab window and again adjust. So I'm fairly happy with that. Again, I could put another guide on this side. I'm not going to bother. You can also usually select and delete guides if you don't want them on all the time. Not normally a harm in leaving them in place. You can also hide them with Control or Command and colon key to sort of see them or hide them at any point. So they're useful to have and to have things snap to them, but if they're getting in your face, or if they stand out or they don't stand out for color, you can change the color. You can also hide them with Control or Command and colon key. Again, this one, I want to just make sure, hold down Shift, both of these. I'm going to go to Align. I want to make sure that they align to Artboard, and I want them to be bang in the center again. Designers often do things by eye, so that makes them perfectly aligned in the center of the artboard. I'm going to do the same in a minute with this icon. Okay, so what I want to do first, that these two are separate, but they were the right spacing. So I'm going to hold down my right mouse button and choose Group. So it will treat them as one object. Select the outer rectangle, the inner rectangle, and the type. I'm going to guess that they're in the center of the page anyway. Okay, they've moved a tiny bit, but I could always turn that off, align to selection. But now I know that the gap on this side of this is the same as the gap on that. Again, I'd probably come in and just, because I'm a bit OCD about this stuff, make sure that I don't have odd pixel heights and things. So I'm going to choose the bottom point, and I'm just going to take that 0.5 off. Okay. I'm going to choose this one, and again make sure it's a nice rounded number. Might be too much here, so I'm actually going to drop this to 14. I want to align to the center, otherwise it's going to have a bigger margin on the right here. So I change my reference point, just type in 14. So these are kind of cleanup phase, as I call it. Okay, where I'm going around and just seeing what looks a bit messy, things that should be aligned, and making sure they are. Okay. The next phase is obviously using the Pathfinder. So in the original icon, this bit's solid and opaque, like white. And so this is a hole rather than being a colored shell. So I want to make sure that this one is in the front. So I just right click, go to Arrange, slightly off screen I'm afraid, and bring to front. Just show that again, right click, Arrange, bring to front. Okay, select it, hold down Shift. Select the back box, bring up Pathfinder. This time, instead of Unite, which would join them, if I hit Unite, I'm going to get a single shape, just undo. And use the next one along, which is minus front. Now this will remove whatever's in front, so that's why I moved the smaller rectangle in front. So my mouse is just coming and going. So I hit minus front. And now what you'll find, it doesn't look very different initially. But if you're observant, I've just hit undo. These two dots, which is the center of the two rectangles, will disappear. If I put a fill in, you will see the effect. So I now have a hole. Okay, we're going to be getting rid of the outlines later. Okay, likewise, I could do the same with this, but this one's a little more complicated.